Ila chindela lenywa ila muwa matinda batomu ndabye pete kabawelane Jesu bien ngene kabawelano ila chindela lenywa wa ila chindela lenywa ila muwa matinda batomu ndabye pete kabawelane Jesu bien ngene kabawelano ila chindela lenywa wa. This is the African history class, and my name Black Rasta. Our ancestors say, until the lion learns to write his own story, the tale of the hunt would always glorify the hunter. Today, I'm going to tell you a sad story. A story that has broken the hearts of many black people and Africans in general. A story that is about to draw tears from your eye socket. It took me time to be able to gather enough courage and energy to tell this pathetic story. And I need you to be my guest right here in the African history class. Do me a favor. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Recommend it to other people. We are called the African history class. African is spelled A-F-R-E-E-K-A-N. History. Class is K-L-A-S-S. Click on the notification button so that anytime we bring you such content, you'll be able to consume this first. It is 100% African history channel. Thank you. Today we are telling the story of a great prince. Today I am going to be telling you about the Battle of Makdala. The Battle of Makdala was fought in 1868. And that battle is a battle no Ethiopian wants to remember. That battle is a battle no right-thinking black person and any member of the world and even the universe would like to remember. Can we rewind? Rewind. Come. Let's start it properly. Today we are telling the story of Prince Alemayehu. Prince Alemayehu was born on the 23rd day of April in 1861. And he was born right there in Ethiopia. He was a very beautiful prince. At birth, his father was so excited. He knew that one day, when he was not there, his son would take over the throne from him. Everybody loved the prince. The young prince would move from one part of the palace to the other. Now his father was called Tewodros II. King Tewodros II. Now let me tell you something about Tewodros II. He himself became king in 1855. And he went all the way for 13 years until 1868, when the Battle of Makdala was fought. When Tewodros became king, he made sure that he changed so many different things in Ethiopia. He made sure agriculture was heavy. He made sure the church was thriving, even though at a point, the church disagreed with taxes that he wanted to put on that institution to be able to help with some political activities in Ethiopia. Tewodros introduced so many new things to the people of Ethiopia. Now you can think about the coin that Tewodros wholeheartedly introduced to the people of Ethiopia. The coin. At a time when so many people were doing different kinds of trades, Ethiopia was standing on its own and dealing with its own economy with no problem. Tewodros made sure that he had an army that was standing solid and strong. He knew that the security of a country is so important. And if you must succeed, much as you desire peace, you must prepare for war. He had a standing army. He himself was a master in guerrilla tactics. As a young man, he joined his big brother's army, and there he had so much training. Today we are not talking about Tewodros, but you cannot tell the story of our prince, the beautiful prince Alemayehu, without his father Tewodros II. Neither can you talk about Tewodros without the Battle of Makdala, which was fought in 1868. Hear me now. The prince was born on the 23rd day of April in 1861. His father was so happy to have him. Mother was so happy. There was a big ceremony to welcome him into the world. He became like a pet in the palace. King Tewodros himself had moved the capital from Gondar. He took it all the way to Dabre Tabor and then to Makdala. So the seat of government moved from Gondar all the way to Dabre Tabor until it got to Makdala. It's important. And when the prince was trying to build Ethiopia, listen, he wrote a letter. He wrote a letter in 1865. He wrote to the Queen of England, Queen Victoria. Listen attentively. And asked Queen Victoria to come and help. He needed a few things from England to be able to fix his country. And they had that kind of rapport. The queen did not mind him for 5 solid years. And he was angry, but he kept it within him. 5 years later, the Queen of England, Queen Victoria, decided to send some emissaries with a letter to King Tewodros, trying to explain to him and also to demand some new things from the king, without necessarily referring into detail to the demands or the request of the king 5 years ago. So what it means is that I write a letter to you, ask you for A, B, and C. You don't say anything about it. 5 years later, you write me a letter demanding fresh things without necessarily referring to what I requested from you 5 years ago. Tewodros got angry and said, with or without the Queen of England, we are fixing Ethiopia, and Ethiopia is solid. We have an army that can defeat any army in the world. The emissaries who had come with a letter from the Queen were arrested by Tewodros and imprisoned. They became the special prisoners of the king. And you can see them. They were imprisoned. When the message got to the Queen of England, she was angry and mad, and decided to attack Ethiopia. And because the capital or the seat of government was at Makdala, today the capital of Ethiopia is Addis Ababa. Hear me now. British soldiers came all the way with weapons of destruction. And Tewodros decided to unleash his soldiers on them. They fought for several days, until King Tewodros realized at the Battle of Makdala that no, his guerrilla tactics couldn't work anymore. The guns were blazing. Cannonballs were flying. Oh, so much destruction. The Ethiopian army was being killed. This was 1868. The British decided to call it the British Expedition of Abyssinia. Remember, Ethiopia used to be called Abyssinia. The British Expedition of Abyssinia. And they had a serious soldier and a commander by name Sir Robert Napier. Sir Robert Napier was the one who led the Queen's forces. And when Tewodros himself realized that the battle was so hot and his people were dying, he looked left, he looked right, and decided to commit suicide. He committed suicide in 1868 at a time when his little boy, oh my God, was only 7 years old. He loved the boy. Prince Alemayehu. He wanted him to become the next king. When he thought about his son and how he was going to take his life, he cried a loud cry, and people could hear him. His voice sounded like thunder as he committed suicide and was going down. He landed and he said, "Forgive me, my son, Alemayehu." These were his last words, and he went down. Now the British army moved on, led by Sir Robert Napier. They arrived and saw the body of Tewodros II, and the Battle of Makdala came to an end. When it ended, the British did not end there. They went into the palace of Tewodros II, carried off every little thing, the gold, the diamonds, the lions. Now Tewodros was a man who loved lions. As you can see, he would sit down and be surrounded by lions. He would speak to lions and they would obey. They carried some of the lions. They carried artifacts. They carried books. They carried manuscripts. They carried so many different things from Ethiopia. In fact, they needed over 100 trucks to carry all these things. They needed camels and horses, about 500 of them, to carry some of these things from the palace of Tewodros II. They ransacked the whole place dry. After carrying all these things, they killed men and women. It was in one of the rooms. They opened and they saw the little Prince Alemayehu reciting the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thine kingdom come, in Amharic. They saw how handsome he was. He was so beautiful. Robert Napier decided to kidnap him. And he kidnapped him and took him all the way to England. Now when they arrived in England, they decided to put him in the care of a captain by name Tristan Speedy. Captain Tristan Speedy. And he lived at a place called the Isle of Wight. The Isle of Wight. That was where he lived. Tewodros II. Oh my God. See what happened now? He decided to take care of the little boy. He didn't like England. It was too cold for him. People were staring at him. He didn't like it. He hated it. So they carried him all the way to India, believing that the Indians looked like the Ethiopians in a way. But even there, it was worse. Now look at what happened. Captain Tristan Speedy was a good friend of Queen Victoria. And one day, when the Queen went to the Isle of Wight to visit him, he saw the little boy and was so happy. Captain Tristan Speedy himself had visited the Queen, carrying the boy on the second occasion. And the Queen decided to adopt Prince Alemayehu. The Queen lived at a place called Osborne House. The Queen took sympathy, in quotes, for the boy, because the boy refused to speak English. He didn't have anybody to speak Amharic with. He wouldn't eat any British food. He wanted to be with his parents. At the age of 7, the Queen wanted to have him by force in England. So they decided to take him to school. They took him to the Locust Park School. He hated that school. Racism. People would tease him. Sometimes they would bring a white kerchief to wipe his skin to find out if that dark portion would come out. He hated it. They moved him from that school and took him to Cheltenham College. And over there they put him in the care of the principal. His name was Thomas Jacks Blake. And he was the one taking care of him. But he didn't like it. They moved him again to another school, to yet another school, to yet another school, until he became so ill. He was suffering from a condition medically known as pleuritis. Some people say pleuritis. It's a chest infection. It gives you shortage of breath and it gives you pain. Oh, they struggled with it. They brought the best doctor in England. And this was Dr. Albert of Leeds, Clifford Albert of Leeds. And he came to take care of him. But he died on the 14th day of November in 1879. He died. Yes, he died at the age of 18. He was gone. He never got to see his hometown again. He never got to see his mother again, his sisters, nobody. All his life, he wanted to return to Ethiopia. And Queen Victoria wrote in her diary. The diary is still available in the museum. She wrote that he was a fine boy who never spoke, who refused to learn any English, and at the same time, he was a sad boy who all the time wanted to return to his homeland. Sad that he died in a faraway land, but they could have returned him to Ethiopia. You don't wait till he dies. They say, oh, he was so sad, we could have returned him to Ethiopia because that was where he wanted to go, Abyssinia. So the Queen of England decided that he would be buried at the St. George's Chapel, Windsor Castle. And that was where he was buried. And the world forgot about him. Prince Alemayehu, in 2003, the Ethiopian government decided to ask for the remains of the prince and the artifacts that were stolen by the British. The British returned a few of those items, but they refused to return the remains of the prince. This year, 2023, 20 years later, the Ethiopian government again asked the British to return the remains of Prince Alemayehu. His last wish was that he wanted to be in Abyssinia, Ethiopia. They refused. The Queen of England refused. What did the Queen of England say? Oh, in fact, where we buried him, if we have to exhume the remains, we will disturb other graves. And we don't want to do that. So he will continue to be here. What was it about Prince Alemayehu that was so important that the British believed that when they lost him, something bad was going to happen to Britain, even though his last wish was to be with his family. Today, my brother, my sister, with tears running down my eyes, Prince Alemayehu, he never got to see his home again. He lived in terror. He ate food that he didn't want. He never opened his mouth to speak to anybody. They tried to educate him, but all he had was racism. They brought the best doctors to take care of him. But medicine can only work where the heart opens up and accepts it. He wanted to go home. Today we remember you, my fair prince. Today we remember you, Prince Alemayehu. Oh, a great son of our land. You would have been king. Your father committed suicide. Oh yes, he said bye-bye to us. At the Battle of Makdala, they stole everything, including you. Today we say, Damrifa Duewate. Oh, Prince Alemayehu. Uniyaminko wate. Uniyaminko. Prince, Missy Uniyaminko wate. Ohiniba, Missy Uniyaminko. Uniyaminko. Oh, Damrifa Duewate. Damrifa Due. Uniyaminko. In the burden of knowledge. I ask you, now that you know the story of Prince Alemayehu, what would you do? Bianani ole, mini obafe, ye zunda kagane, mezaka yine, ye anpa bango, bukaya nang, fifia yenya, nukai nawo, banayehu, banayehu, ebe ya bade, lele anjima singa be kunne, lele anjima singa beri. It's been the African history class. And my name, Black Rasta.
Ila chindela lenywa ila muwa matinda batomu ndabye pete kaba welane Jesu bien ngene kaba welano ila chindela lenywa wa ila chindela lenywa ila muwa matinda batomu ndabye pete kaba welane Jesu bien ngene kaba welano ila chindela lenywa wa